I'm here talking with television producer Randall Winston, who has been behind some of TV's greatest series like Spin City, Scrubs, and currently Cougar Town. And Randall also had many cameos in Scrubs, playing the role of Leonard, the security guard, with a hook for a hand. But thanks so much for talking with me.
My pleasure.
And I mean, I usually do interviews with composers, but I'm not a musician, I'm into I want to be in production and learn that side of it. And so, how did you find yourself getting into production? And when did you meet Bill Lawrence, and who's kind of been your partner in crime all these years?
Yeah, we say it's our longest adult relationship, um, and I said this job is the best job I never wanted. So I think I wanted to be in the world of making television, but didn't really know what that meant or how to do it, or
Mm-hmm.
what the jobs were that were available. When I first came out here out of school, most people who I asked how they got their job, they always would say they fell into it, which I didn't really understand at the time.
Yeah.
But, I fell into it.
So you just what was your first big
My
big break?
first experience was, while I was still in school, I came out here and I interned. And
Mm-hmm.
I interned, my internship turned into my first job, and I worked for a great guy by the name of Gary David Goldberg. He did Family Ties. They were doing Family Ties when I came out here. And that internship, I would do 3 days on Family Ties, and then 2 days on Entertainment Tonight. That was how I filled out my week of my internships. And then when I came back, I applied at both those places, and ran around town like a maniac, and ultimately got offered a job at Ubu,
Well, that's
which is Gary's company.
okay. So and now in the industry there are many different producer titles, and the main ones people see are associate producer, and executive producer. What's the quick rundown of the three different titles?
The quick rundown in television, associate producer usually means post.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Writers, it's a writer's medium, so the escalation of writers usually translates into a variety of producer titles: supervising producer, co-executive producer, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And then there is the physical producer, which is the business side, which is what I do, and that's usually a producer title. It's designated by the produced by credit. However, in the past several years, I get a co-executive producer credit because of how Bill and I work together.
Right. And so, just for example, on Cougar Town, as a co-executive producer, what is a rundown of your responsibilities?
It's it varies. I mean, I think the primary function is, I liaise, I liaise between, creative and physical production.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually a lot of translating of the material to make sure that we've got all the proper things, or to say to creative, if you really want to storm the beach at Normandy, then we're going to have to give up a lot of other things.
Right.
On Scrubs, Bill and I talked a lot about, the value of a joke. In a comedy, the funny is the most important thing to get on screen. But, if in the week, the funniest joke in the script requires, digging up the parking lot and building a swimming pool, we have to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the most important thing in the script? What are we going to give up? Do we still need a team of horses, or whatever that thing is? So my job has a lot of those kinds of conversations, and then I interact with both the studio and the network on the show schedule, the show budget,
Mm-hmm.
other things on target, and what's happening.
And talking about the schedule, I mean, you hear stories about how crazy television production schedules are. So when you guys are in production on, say, Cougar Town, and you have a whole season's, do you have the whole season kind of mapped out for shooting? before day one of principal photography, or are you kind of just are you taking episode by episode, or how do you plan out your entire shooting schedule?
Well, every plan changes. There's no plan that we have that isn't changeable. That's either the best or the worst part of it. And we can only plan as far ahead as what we have material for. If I don't have a script, we can't plan our days out. If I don't have if I don't know what actors are in it, and what the restrictions are. Those are the kinds of things that you, in series, since you're laying it out across several months, particularly in single camera, you can zag a little bit better because, if you have actors that aren't available on this certain day or a location that's not available on that certain day, but across shooting several episodes, you can go back or make it up or maybe you can gang some things together. We like to do that if we have a location that's going to appear in maybe 3 different episodes, but just in small pieces, we would hold those scenes, and get the most bang for our buck and shoot them all at once.
Right. So it's almost, it's more a single camera is more almost like a film production rather than studio audience, 3 camera.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when you're kind of in the grind of it, how do you set up your production crew? Do you have kind of like cycles, like this group is working on this episode, and do you have like a rotation cycle, or how does that work?
Well, the difference between single camera comedies, which are half hours, and you tend to be on a 5-day schedule, and being on a larger, the hour show or drama, is that we don't have the luxury of being able to build a crew out to have alternating people in all categories. It just becomes cost prohibitive. So, there are some positions like our assistant director, our first ADs, because 1 week they're prepping and 1 week they're shooting. You mirror that position. There have been I know of shows, depending on how much exterior they do or how quickly they're moving.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have DPs that do that, but for the most part, your shooting crew is your shooting crew, and we might splinter off a B unit, but we're not a big enough show to really run 2 crews.
Right. And when you guys because you do a lot of on location stuff too, and like I saw some pictures I think that Bill put up on his Facebook where you guys are shooting out on the beach and you're doing different locations like that. So how much prep do you have to get certain permits and stuff when you guys are shooting outside of your lot?
Yeah, we have a wonderful location manager, Albert Epps, who we've worked with all through Scrubs and continue to work with him now, who really gets the short end of the stick sometimes because we may not have been able to scout that location too far out. A normal conversation with Albert would be, that location has to be picked today because otherwise I can't get it posted or get the neighbors to sign off, or we're not going to put trailers here or a light there. So he and his team spend a lot of time, knocking on people's doors and really sussing out those particulars.
Mm-hmm. And now I also have a question about music licensing, because Scrubs and Cougar Town they typically end with a song, and I've noticed that in syndication sometimes those the music or the song choice gets switched when it's on TV, and so do you guys have to jump through a lot of hoops to get certain music? Has Chris ever picked a song and then you guys tried to get it and couldn't get it? Has there ever been instances like that?
Well, as you mentioned, Krista Miller, she is extremely helpful because of her wealth of knowledge about songs and bands and finding stuff, sometimes obscure things where the license fee isn't going to kill us, and we can make that show work in perpetuity. That's really that is the language that is locked in these days in most licensing agreements.
Mm-hmm.
So those change-outs don't happen as often. You see them, you hear them in the early years of Scrubs more. We used to go through a process after the show was done and before the show went into DVD or syndication, and I worked with some great music editors and such, and they would really try and find songs that were more reasonably priced to put in for the show to live on in perpetuity. Mm-hmm. But now the songs that we license, because partially because media has changed, in that the show goes out and it's online, and we may be releasing in multiple countries, like Canada, I think, airs at the same time we do, and the cycles are so close together.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense to license a song that you can't have in the show forever. So
yeah.
So as most companies don't allow you to do that anymore. I mean, it may be happening in companies that are a little more fluid.
Uh-huh. And I mean, it also changes the whole. Like I remember I was watching an episode on TV once, and I was like, "What? What the hell?" It's like I remember this episode, and it completely changes the flow, and I was like, "What is going on?"
I know, it is a little weird, and especially because the editors go to great lengths to cut a scene to the song that's been chosen.
Yeah, and definitely. I mean, and the way you guys use music is great too. I mean, I interviewed Waz a few weeks ago and talked about his role and the way they do their music, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
And
those guys are fantastic.
Yeah. And I guess some wrap up questions. I mean, I could probably talk to you for days, but what's the most joyous part of your job?
The most joyous part of my job, I mean, is laughing. It's great to be able to come to a job and have a lot of laughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's the laughter in the people, even when you have a off-putting or stressful little bit, that makes it more fun and more worth it.
Yeah, and go to the opposite end. What's the most headache-inducing part of your job?
I mean, it's an amalgamation of things. I mean, production by nature, nothing is okay for more than 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I've learned to embrace that more than anything, over the years of production, and that's, the nature of this world and my job is most of the time when somebody comes to my office, it's not just to say hi. There's usually something that needs to be solved, or a problem, or an issue, or whatever, and so those are the challenges. But without that, there's no reason for me to be here.
Right. And do you have a bizarre or ridiculous on-set story that you could share? That's something maybe something or some
that I can share.
Yeah. Maybe where something went terribly wrong, where it completely threw you off guard, or something.
I don't know. There was a crazy story from today that I wasn't even here for, about an actress who came in to audition for something and then peed in front of Bill's office. That was, just another day at the office. I don't think that happens at IBM.
Wow. Okay, that answers the question, I guess. But that's all I have for you now, Randall. But thanks so much for doing this. It was a real honor thanks for the viewing parties that you guys threw. That was so much fun, and I'm enjoying this. I'm loving the season so far.
Thank you. We think these shows are so good, and honestly, totally appreciate it. Anything you need, or if you feel like you need something else to round it out, please don't hesitate to give me a call.
No.
And keep watching.
I plan to, but thanks so much.
Take it easy, Kaya.
All right, thanks, Randall. Bye.